Well, today I'm joined by Five Fire to talk a little bit about, several different things, including a recent retirement announcement, I guess I could say, at least for now. Of course, this coverage is brought to you by Alienware. So, Five Fire, I know there's a lot of people who are familiar with their name and maybe know that you've played in amateur and academy and all that, but I'm sure, it might be nice if you could also just kind of give a breakdown of what your career has been like.
Yeah, so I'm Five Fire. I've been a mid laner in North America for a few years now. I have been around in the amateur scene for a really long time. I'm probably one of the most infamous players there. I did play briefly on Evil Geniuses Academy last year. I subbed for them for 6 weeks for 12 games. But beyond that, I'm probably most well known for my time in the amateur scene, the fact that I have consistently won amateur every single year for the past few years, and that I won Proving Grounds this spring.
And so obviously you've built up a bit of a record for yourself in the amateur scene, especially. So I guess the question is, what led to your retirement announcement? I mean, why was it that you decided to discontinue competing?
Yeah, so I mean, playing and winning in amateur is great, right? It's really fun, getting to play with different players all times. It's not quite as stressful as a pro, as like being in a pro career, right? Like in a team house or like at an office or whatever. But it doesn't really pay the bills, right? So for me, just as a person, moving forward, because I wasn't able to make it on a pro team now for essentially like the third year in a row, right? I wasn't able to find a permanent spot. It just didn't make sense for me moving forward to, keep pushing that angle over and over and over again if I wasn't getting anything out of it.
So I'd love to hear from you personally what you think is the reason you weren't able to go pro, because I think a lot of people saw your announcement and thought it was crazy given the accomplishments you've had. So I don't know, there's been some discussion. Some people are like, oh, well, he had like a rep, especially from the beginning of being like kind of hard to work with or that type of stuff. So, you know, as you reflect on the things that held you back from pursuing the dreams that you had, what do you think were the major factors?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying that like I'm definitely not the perfect person. I definitely made a bunch of mistakes, being a young guy who's been super competitive his whole life and chasing his dream, I did some things that I regretted. And those probably, helped people to have certain opinions and ideas of me as a person and as a player. Um, but in the end, I'm still trying to figure it all out because parts of it are still quite confusing to me. I understand that just because you win some events and because you work hard doesn't mean you're like guaranteed anything. But like specifically speaking to the bad rep part, one thing that is a bit befuddling to me is that from what I've personally gathered, a lot of it is my time on EGA last year. Some people felt like I was difficult to work with, I was a bad teammate, things like that. Um, but it's just a bit weird because the only team that reached out to me in these last 2 years really seriously was EG. They were the team that wanted me back, right? And normally that would make sense. If it's the team that I've worked with before and the team that knows me really well, then of course they'd want me back. But if I'm this player who is unworkable and a bad teammate and all these things, then they would be the first team to stay away, right? So that's something I'm still trying to figure out. I don't quite know what's going on there. I definitely think it goes to show just, people will tell you this your whole life and it's just as true in esports, but it like who you know and what your reputation is like is just super, super important.
You said that EG wanted you back. I mean, assuming they wanted you back, why didn't you decide to continue competing? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding the
No,
timelines of
yeah.
this.
So, yeah, sorry, that was a bit vague. So, I don't remember exactly. I think it was this summer when I wasn't planning on playing. They reached out to me and offered me a spot on their amateur team on Evil
Okay.
Geniuses Prodigies, right? I didn't feel like it was a great fit at the time, right? I didn't know if I wanted to play amateur again with another roster, right? There was a whole bunch of factors there, which I decided to decline. And then this offseason, actually, EG was the only team to reach out to me before Scouting Grounds.
Gotcha.
They were the only team to contact me, and they were like, we're looking at you. We want to have talks with you. We'll keep in touch, right? And they ended up going with a different mid laner now. I don't know if he's announced yet, but like I have respect for the decision they made, so like I can see why they ended up going that other direction. but yeah, they were the team that was like the most interested in talking to me throughout these years.
Do you think it really came down to like the reputation that held you back, or does any of this also go into just how difficult it is for North American players to make it into the league? Because obviously that's where I think a lot of people's mind went on Reddit and on Twitter and social media, where it's like, wow, like this person put up a ton of great results, did presumably everything you're supposed to do in terms of showing that you have potential, and then you weren't able to land that spot. So I don't know if you in your mind you're like, wow, it just really was the reputation, or if you think like the system is not working the way it should for North American talent. I don't know where you think about what your thoughts are on about all this stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I think both parts have some merit. I think for me personally, I think it was mostly the reputation, right? Like I think me being a North American player in the mid lane, especially, sure it hurts, but like there are plenty of players who have gotten spots this year, right? Um, plenty of like pretty decent players, pretty decent mid laners that have gotten picked up now and, are getting picked up by these amateur teams and things like that and getting promoted through those. That I think it's not. I think there's a lot out there where people get very angry when an NA player gets shafted for a spot for an import or something like that.
Yeah.
And there is maybe some teams that are import happy and things like that. But I think overall the system is doing a good enough job for most NA players.
Okay, so you're not begrudging the system. It's not. You don't think it's like, wow, this is a failure. I should have been able to earn the spot, and it just was against me.
I mean, obviously, from my perspective, especially right now, just a few days out, I'm still quite frustrated with the whole thing. And while there is some stuff I could have done better, I also feel like there are some double standards and things like that within the system that held me back, which haven't affected other people. But it's hard to be mad at these players who they just want a job, and like someone is willing to give them a job and an opportunity, and like they showcase that they're a decent enough player to be in that position. It's really hard to be mad at them for that.
What do you do now? I mean, you said like for the time being I'm retired or something. Is it just you saying you're not ready to completely walk away yet, or why not just say thanks everyone, see it ever,
Yeah, no, I went back and forth on a little bit, and I think really at the end of it, it was just how much I have been a part of this scene, right? Like I wouldn't have stuck around in amateur for whatever it is, 3 years, if I didn't love competing here, if I didn't love being around these people. Again, sure, right now I've got some gripes that I need to work out with some people and some things like that and the system as a whole. But when I go back, right, like yesterday, I was playing Twitch Rivals, right? Like that was super fun, hanging around like that in the scene, just on social media, stuff like that. Obviously, like following the pro scene and worlds and all that. I mean, I've got friends there now, right? I've got people who I've worked with, so I want to be able to stay in touch with them and all that stuff. And also because it is true that if I was given an opportunity, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right. The only reason why I had to make that tweet and make this retirement announcement is because I had no further options, at least as a player. Right. But I have already had people reach out to me for different things in collegiate, different things about potentially coaching. And, right now I'm kind of taking that all in and sort of figuring out exactly where it is I want to go.
Yeah.
But, I want to really stay in the scene in some capacity because, I started playing this game in season 1. I've been playing video games my whole life. I love it so much. So if I could stay, it would be great.
Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, because I think, like, I knew as soon as I saw your tweet go out that it was going to spark a big discussion, because even though, you have most amateur players do not build much of a brand for themselves. They don't have the opportunity for people to get noticed. People obviously knew your name, and I think especially as more and more people were discussing all the accomplishments, there was a big question about like what happened here. So hearing it from you, I think, is really helpful. Is there anything you want to say to anybody out there? Any of the people that, I don't know, reached out, or what you saw the community reaction was, or even like a final, a declaration of like that you'd love to play and like please help you out? I don't know, anything like that.
No, I mean all of that. Like, yeah, if someone can give me a chance to play like with some good players, some good coaches, and unfortunately, I gotta ask, I need some good money. Not great money, just like, livable.
Pay rent, yes.
Like, yeah, like I'll take it in a heartbeat. Again, thanks so much to everyone who reached out, not even just the people who reached out to me with opportunities, people who reached out saying that they had been watching me for a while, or they were disappointed I didn't make it, right? They'd been supporting me. Those are the people who have been keeping me going for these past few years and will keep me going into next year, even if it's in a different state or a different capacity, right? Um, yeah, and to the people who have some fun with trying to bring me down, take me out, stuff like that, talking about the behind the scenes talk or whatever, like it's not a big deal. I'm just chilling. So yeah.
Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. Best of luck. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in the league scene, because it sounds like you've got some cool opportunities ahead of you. So hopefully playing becomes one of them soon, as it sounds like that's what you'd like. So
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Playing is where my heart really is. But
Yeah.
even if it's some different avenue, I'm sure I'll still enjoy it. So.
yeah. Well, thank you again so much for the interview. Best of luck. And for everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things league right here on my YouTube channel. Happy holidays, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for watching that video. I hope it was the gift under your tree that you were looking for. And if you're looking for something that's too big to put in a stocking, you should look at alienware.com/Travis and some of the sick hardware that they've got going on there. It's the time to be maybe giving yourself a gift, maybe getting somebody else a gift, and you can use the discount code in the description to save money on that gift. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring this video.